Hey, good Thursday, everybody, and welcome to the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. I'm Eric Kane with Rob Lewis, Austin Price, and Brent Hubbs. Tennessee, of course, awaits to see which bowl game it will go to. Will it be the Orange Bowl? Will it be the Cotton Bowl? We will find out on Sunday afternoon. That's one of many questions in here for the Mailbag Podcast that we're doing right now. Let's go ahead and get started. We'll go to Crystal Palace Vol. What happens to Tennessee if USC and TCU both lose? Brent, you want to kick us off?
If they both lose,
yes.
Oh man, this is like the choose your own adventure book. So if you read this page, turn to this page, and
I got it.
This page. Go ahead, AP. I'll let you go.
It all depends on what happens, with those teams. Like, does TCU still get in as a one-loss team? Like, they're undefeated right now. So does their resume hold up to get in as the 4th spot? To me, that's the biggest question. If you're just simply saying Ohio State and Alabama go in, then Tennessee's going to the Sugar Bowl. And they would play TCU. If only one of them gets in, if it's Ohio State, then Alabama still go to the Sugar, and that would put Tennessee in the Orange Bowl locked in.
Would they definitely play TCU over Kansas State, but they're highest ranked? Is that how that goes in the Sugar? Kansas State is a Big 12 champion. Do they go?
No, you're right. It would be Kansas State. That's right, because they would be the Big 12 champ, and which means TCU would get pushed to the Cotton Bowl. So you're right. It would be kind of like Utah and USC. Like, if Utah beats USC, USC falls all the way from the playoff all the way to the Cotton Bowl, because Utah would be the Pac-12 champ and be locked into the Rose against either Ohio State in a rematch, which I'm sure that the Rose Bowl then would invoke their cluster clause. Or if USC, if it's not, it would be Washington in the Rose versus maybe Ohio State and maybe Penn State.
What TV show is that? Is that Always Sunny in Philadelphia when they've got all the yarn and stuff on the wall and they're trying to figure out if this happens, if this happens?
You'll have to ask Hubbard about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I've actually never watched an episode. Hubbard, you a big fan?
No, I've never seen it. Are you kidding me? I don't even know the show. I don't know anything about that show.
It's a famous GIF that's out there.
Who's the star of the show?
I don't know. What does it matter? I mean,
he's catching up on Yellowstone right now. He didn't have time.
I mean, I don't have any idea.
I finally broke down to watch the colored Andy Griffith show.
I was going to say,
no, I don't watch those either. Those are banned. Those are not allowed in this house in Corrington. Hey,
do you watch Matlock?
No, my wife does. And Murder, She Wrote. Let's do. Let me ask this. So it feels like under that scenario, if TCU and USC both lose, USC could take the hardest fall of anybody, right?
Yeah, they could.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought. I was just curious.
All right, let's move on to Vol in SC. What is y'all's favorite offensive play of the season and favorite defensive play of the season? And give a freshman you were most impressed with on each side of the football. I'll start us off. Basically, one of the plays in motion to where you get Jalen Hyatt matched up on a linebacker. That happened twice in Kentucky, so I'll go with that. Freshman I was most impressed with on the offense side of the football. I wrote about it this week over at Volquest.com. I'll say Squirrel White. Defensive side of the football, I will say Joshua Josephs.
I'm going to go Dylan Sampson. I'll stick with Joshua Josephs. I will take the field goal to beat Alabama. I mean, why would you not take that? And then defensively, I don't know. As far as just pure plays, I thought the Trayvon Flowers interception at Pittsburgh was about as good a play as there was. Now, we didn't see a safety make much of a play after that. But I mean, I thought that was a really, really good play. And honestly, at the time, when you think back, Tennessee needed that one about as much as they needed any play all season, based off the fact that Pittsburgh had the potential to go up 3 scores there.
Go ahead, Rob.
Any Jalen Hyatt play, and where they just got him wide open, against Alabama. Probably the best example was at the Missouri game when they hit him at H-back and then leaked him down like on the wheel route. That was kind of I wouldn't say meaningless, but it wasn't a huge play. But I thought that was just a great example of this coaching staff, getting kids in great spots to make plays. I'll go with Squirrel White on offense. And defense, you have to go Josh Josephs, but man, I think Elijah Herring should have gotten more playing time when you look at what Tennessee, I mean, they weren't great at linebacker. And, I know he had a little package here and there, but, coming down the end of the season, he was getting 2, 3, 4 snaps a game. I would have liked to see him play more, but you have to give it to Joseph he had some tangible production in real spots.
I'll be quick. I mean, I'll go Dylan Sampson. I think he grew a lot as the season went along and earned some reps. Defensively, I guess probably the play that sticks out to me the most is Slaughter's hit in the Kentucky game that forced an interception, because that was a secondary play. We didn't see many of those this year. I thought that was an important play at that point early in that game. And then play-wise, I'm going to go with the seam pass to Jalen Hyatt for a touchdown in the Alabama game, as Tennessee answered after the fumble where it looked like things might fall apart for him. That was a check by Hendon Hooker at the line of scrimmage, and it just showed the deficiencies of Alabama's secondary and the unbelievable speed that Jalen Hyatt's got in the open field.
What I meant to mention, when you go back, it seems like a million years ago, Tyler Barron's sack at Pittsburgh right before halftime.
Big play.
Big with the fumble. I think that's what knocked Slovis out of the game. And when you look at the way the second half went, that was pretty significant.
The way the last month went, the play that Hubbs is talking about with Danico Slaughter feels like a million years ago. I mean, just all the stuff that's went on.
Yeah, I forgot the name of defensive play, but that 100% would be mine as well. I mean, just that pop. He gave cushion too, but the difference is he gave cushion, but he came up and laid the wood, and that's something that we hadn't seen from a Tennessee defensive back in a long time. Let's go to Zeusify. Any concern with the 2 Tennessee commits in the state of Alabama? Smith in particular. The other one would be Khalifa Keith. I would imagine Freeze is already on the phone with them, Austin.
Well, I mean, I'm sure he's going to try. I mean, if you're not, then that's poor recruiting on his part. Especially if your staff evaluates and thinks they're good enough. Now, I don't think he's got a big enough staff in place to be able to say, yeah, we've evaluated him. I mean, I think they're just calling kids that are trying to assemble some semblance of a class. And you're going to pick up the phone and call all those in-state kids that were leaving to go elsewhere. And, that's where, Sylvester Smith comes in play. Again, Sylvester Smith's continued to have really good dialogue with Tennessee. Tennessee's treating him like, he's on the edge of, not being in this class. And when I say that, I mean, like, they are in constant contact with him. They will go see him when, coaches can be out on the road. Like, I mean, I'm talking like first day opens, boom, they're going to see Sylvester Smith, that type of thing. Like they are approaching this like he's not committed and they're trying to land him, because that's how you've got to recruit some of these kids. Hubbard, Auburn's going to take a big swing. And how much do these families go, it'd just be a lot easier on me to come watch you play the prospect X, 30 minutes down the road, 60 minutes down the road versus 6 hours down the road.
Yeah, I mean, if Tennessee's doing a good job with their relationships, I think they have a chance to be okay there. But because Sylvester Smith, he's doing any due diligence, his question is, well, what's the defense going to look like? And how do they answer that question right now? Because they don't have a defensive staff in place. And then in terms of Keith, Cadillac Williams didn't recruit him, and he's still on staff at all.
Yeah, and they got Jeremiah Cobb.
Yeah,
so.
I don't think anything with Keith there. I think Smith would be the one, and I think they'll take a shot at Ricky Gibson too.
Yep.
Those would be the 2 that I would be most concerned about. And the longer Auburn goes without putting a defensive staff together, that they can show those kids what their defense is going to look like, probably the better. But they'll get one in place for those guys to get on the road and go out and try to see kids. So certainly 2 guys we'll keep an eye on here over the next couple of weeks.
Hope to stay with you. Answer this one from Pine. What are the next steps and time frame for the NCAA investigation? What do you expect the outcome to be?
90 days is what the NCAA has to respond to Tennessee's response to the letter of allegations or the infractions, whatever the Committee on Infractions sent that Tennessee just responded to with their 100-page document. They have 90 days to respond to that. We'll see. I mean, my guess is the NCAA is not take and simply say what you've done to this point is enough. There'll be a fine in there. Could there be any more scholarship reductions? I don't know. Could there be more limitations in recruiting in terms of on-campus visits? Possibly. We'll see. I don't know that the NCAA is just going to come back and say, no, we're good with everything. But I think Tennessee made a pretty compelling argument in a couple of different ways with that failure to monitor charge. And so I don't think that they're going to get hammered or there's anything, significant coming for Tennessee down the pike here.
Rob Lewis, S. Pitt Vol wants to know, could you see Heupel taking over play calling duties next season if Golish were to leave to become a head coach? It's kind of a tag team effort there, Rob. I feel like they both have a hand in the play calling duties already.
Yeah, I mean, my guess would be, you guys chime in, that he would kind of be a lot like it is now. Like he, calls some of the plays. He's heavily involved in the game plan and what to do. And, he'd hire somebody he trusts and has good rapport with, and he'd have input like he does now. Whether he called all 87 plays, I kind of doubt that. But, whoever is in that position, Josh's fingerprints are going to be all over the offense and the play calling, I would strongly suspect.
Yeah, and I think it would be more involved in year one with a new play caller. My guess is when Alex Golish got to UCF, Josh Heupel was probably more hands-on in year one as Golish got a better grasp of the offense. And as the offense evolved with Golish's input and off seasons and more trust was built there, I think Golish called more and more action for Tennessee. And Josh Heupel, his input was still there, but probably not as prominent as it was in year one until there was a firm kind of understanding and grasp of things. So I think it would be a growth process. Rob, in basketball, Michael Schwartz, his first year here, was very hands-on, involved in things, but his last year here, he was the defensive coordinator for Rick Barnes. He grew within Barnes's framework of what he wanted to do. I think Alex Golish has done the same thing. I still think there's a good chance Alex Golish is back next year. I don't know that he's going to be anywhere else.
Malou wants to know, what exactly has been Miles Campbell's issues? Well, he was supposed to be the second coming 2 fall camps ago. Austin, if you want to take this one.
Well, I think, for Miles, it's just about being more consistent. It's one of those situations where, Hubbard, I don't think that the coaching change was super beneficial to him. And, he's just struggled to either stay healthy or stay on the field, with the playbook.
Yeah, I don't know that he was ever considered the second coming.
That's a little strong.
I don't know about that. He didn't make it through the first fall camp under Josh Heupel because he was sick and hurt. I think there's a couple things. I think Miles needs to be more competitive, and I think he needs to be more committed to being what they want him to be, and that includes being more physical. It's not just about running and catching passes. It's about doing all those things. And Rob, that's a tough position to learn. You got to really commit to the game to learn the tight end spot in this offense because they flex you around and do so many different things with you. And I just don't think he's there.
Yeah, and that's something I didn't really get a long time ago about what you're talking about. That it's difficult for a young kid because you really are learning everything that an offensive lineman is learning, and you're learning everything a wide receiver is learning to be involved in the passing game and the running game. And if you're not, like you said, if you're not committed, you get over your head in a hurry. But I think the bottom line, Hubbard, is just like we used to say about AP all the time. Talent's not the problem. Talent's not the issue.
I'll admit, I did not realize how big the position of tight end was in this offense 2 years ago. I really didn't understand it until really this season when I'm just like, okay. And, I've always been a slow learner, but I'm sitting there like, okay, these guys never come off the field. They lined up here. Like, I get it now. It's really important. So everybody's been asking me since the season's been over, like, what sense is he going to get in the transfer portal? Who are they going to target? And I said, tight end. You got to have 2 tight ends. Got to. It's imperative for this offense. So
and don't think you're fooling anybody. Just because you're wearing glasses today doesn't make you still not a slow learner.
I'm wearing glasses today because all of a sudden I'm blind and can't read anything. So
yeah, I think the tight end position is the single most important position for Tennessee in the transfer portal right now. That doesn't mean they don't need help at other positions, but when you look at needs, Austin, is there a greater need on this team this offseason than the tight end position?
Well, you and I had this discussion before. I think it's offensive tackle because if you knew Darnell Wright was coming back, then sure, I 100% agree with you. But I just feel like Tennessee's got to upgrade their tackles too, especially with Darnell leaning to not coming back. So that's where I lean offensive tackle. But if you're talking about, I would rather have 2 solid tight ends versus just a body at offensive tackle. Like if you're saying primo quality offensive tackle, I would take that above anything in this class. But if you're just talking about just somebody that's played a little bit here or there at some other place coming in and competing versus 2 solid tight ends, I would definitely take the 2 solid tight ends.
I mean, my question right now is,
it's all in how you want to juggle it and
right.
argue it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you, but at least, I mean, right now you've got Jeremiah Crawford, who has played in the SEC. You got Gerald Mincey, who's played in the SEC. At tight end, if Jacob Warren doesn't come back, and I don't know what he's going to do, maybe he does come back. He's the only guy you got that's played any snaps. It's the only tight end you got. And you survived this year with just 2, which is pretty hard to do. That's why I think, I mean, if Jacob Warren leaves, you don't have anybody you feel comfortable playing in the SEC right now at that position. Whereas at the tackle position, you're thin and you need help, but at least you got a couple of guys who've gotten snaps there, in the SEC and understand what it's like.
Hunter Salmon, walk-on tight ends, gotten a few reps. But again, that's not like every single down reps that we're talking about. It's not.
I bet he hadn't played 40 snaps in SEC play this year.
No, I'm with you 100%. I bet it's been like 10, maybe. It's not been much. CN31, if you're the coach, what is your starting secondary and starting defensive line based on current roster and expected signees for next season? Anybody want to start?
Who's going to be the starting quarterback in 2029? I mean, like, it's too far away. Like, I'm not trying to be like a smart aleck either. Like, I mean, it's just we can throw guesses out there. All right, let's go. Starting secondary. I think it'll be Wesley Walker. Until I see otherwise, I'm going to go Tank McCullough. And there are creatures of habit, so I'll go. Do they like what Danico Slaughter brought him at corner? Do they think with another offseason he can be better as a physical corner? I think that's possible. And then where's Warren Burrell at? And I would go nickel, I'd go McDonald. Just because, again, coaches are creatures of habit. Look at Ohio State. Dallin Hayden ran for 100 yards in back-to-back games. He got 2 carries against Ohio State because, he was a freshman. They moved some linebacker in to running back 3 weeks ago, and he led them against Michigan in carries. Like, all coaches have like this, I don't know, like these head-scratching moments.
Yeah. Anybody else want to add anything to that?
I just think you just got to wait and see. And I know that's not the answer people want to look for, but I mean, where's Kamal Haddon? Where's Brandon Turnage? Here's the X factor at corner. How good is Jordan Matthews?
There you go.
What does he look like in January? But now I'm not going to sit here and go, Jordan Matthews is going to be a starter at corner, because I've not seen Jordan Matthews at the collegiate level. I don't have any idea what that translates into. Because if you say that, then a question might become, this guy was the end-all be-all in January. What happened to him? I don't know. You got to see. I mean, Austin and I were having this discussion earlier that the narrative gets shifted out there. I mean, I always joke with Paul. I mean, Woody Quinn was the second coming at tight end and couldn't play dead when they put pads on. So you just got to wait and see what these guys look like when they get here. And I'm with Austin. I'm not trying to be mean, but you just got to wait and see. Same thing in basketball, right, Rob? I mean, you got you got the Phillips kid. Everybody says he's really good. You say, well, I mean, how quick's his transition? Then he goes to the Bahamas and plays really well. But then you have some other guys who are 5-star freshmen that are thought to be one and dones, and they don't get on the court.
Hubbard, how about this? Let's make a list of all the really good freshman defensive backs that have been here this century. Eric Berry, that's it.
Gerard Parrish. Parrish.
The list is. I mean, am I missing somebody?
No, and when I say Gerard Parrish, Rob, it's the fact that
Well, I mean, seriously. I mean, that I can't come up with another. I mean, they've had a bunch of freshmen that have had to play here. I mean, Trevon Flowers played.
Yeah, Cam Sutton, ended up being he's been an NFL guy.
I don't remember how much he played as a freshman, though.
Yeah, he played quite a bit as a freshman, but I think
Taylor played as a freshman.
Think that was more. Both of those. I mean, Alontae Taylor was a receiver. They got thrown to corner because that position looked like the tight end position is going to look like in spring practice right now if Tennessee doesn't have portal success. Alontae, reluctantly went to corner. Cam Sutton played some, but again, I think that was a bit out of need, a little bit, not because you looked at him and said, "Man, that guy is so good, you can't keep him off the field."
That's what Eric Berry.
Right, and that's your point, Rob. The guy's so good, you can't keep him off the field.
And the other half of the question was about defensive line. Again, take everybody that played this year, minus Byron Young, minus Croc Garland. It's a rotational position, so
I mean, if you're looking for a starters, I would say inside would be Amari Thomas and DJ Terry would be probably where I would start.
Yep.
And then I would go Joshua Josephs on the outside, and I might go Tyree West on the outside over there. We'll see where they go with Tyler Barron, and we'll see what James Pierce looks like in a development standpoint.
Yes, and then if you're going to the JUCO route, however, Elijah Davis is going to be brought into play.
Yeah,
if they land Elijah Davis, that's another one you got to pay attention to. I'm with you. The other one I think would be interesting on the inside could be Bryson Eason. I mean, he's as gifted as just about anybody they have in the interior. Does he take another step? He took a step from last year to this year.
Mm-hmm. He did.
Can he take another step from this year to next year? I think it's possible. And if he takes a step, it could be a big step because when Coach Garner feels like, who can make the biggest leap inside, it is Bryson Eason.
And again, defensive line is it's a rotational position. Bryson Eason played 20 snaps against Vanderbilt. They're all going to play. So let's go here. James 007, how many bowl opt-outs do we see at this point in time?
I don't think very many. I mean, I don't count the ones that are going in the portal. But just as far as guys that don't play, I don't count Hendon. He's hurt. Cedric Tillman is not going to play in the bowl game. Maybe Jalen Hyatt, but he's 32 yards away from the single season record. Does he want that? I think he plays the bowl game, me personally. Outside of that, who else would set out? Last year, Alante made sense, but what seniors would set out? I think Darnell will play. That's just kind of who that kid is. Jerome Carbon, I think, will play. Who else is a possibility over? Because I can't really think of a whole lot.
Tight ends, they'll play.
Yeah, I don't see a bunch of opt-outs on this team because I don't think there's anybody sitting in the catbird seat from an NFL standpoint, Rob, that the NFL is going to go, yeah, I don't blame him. That'd be good. There's nothing wrong with him sitting out. There's some guys who continue to need to put some stuff on tape. Now, if you're in the Cotton Bowl and you're playing a group of 5, does an agent tell a guy, hey, you're not going to help yourself playing in that game and put some bug in their head? Maybe. Or do they go the other way and go, hey, man, you can rack up a bunch of numbers in front of everybody against a team like this that you're playing. So I don't think there'll be many because this team is not disappointed because they've not been in this spot. This is not like a perennial playoff team who's sitting there going, well, we got nothing to play for now. What's the point? This team's still feeling a reward for going to a bowl game, because they didn't go to a bowl game their entire career. Whereas the guys at Alabama are like, wait a minute, we're not in the playoffs. Well, forget this. I'm not playing. I think Alabama will have a bunch of opt-outs in there.
Perfect example. When we take Ball Club Confidential this week, Byron Young was talking about how excited he was to be in one of these bigger bowl games. That the coaches had told him how much cooler going to the Orange Bowl or the Cotton Bowl is compared to playing in one of the mid-level bowls. So they're really excited about this. So I'm with Hubs. I think that a lot of them will want to be able to play on that stage. To be able to play, in an NFL stadium, whether it's in Dallas or Miami.
All right, let's go to future_JD23. These are directed to Austin. Jordan Phillips, what's his status? How is he progressing? Haven't heard anything about him this year. And then outside of Golish, are there any other potential staff changes that we should be on the lookout for right now?
Staff changes, no. Golish, if he gets a head job, I don't think, anybody's going to go with Alex. I think, you might see some QCs and GAs go with Coach Golish. But I don't think Kelsey Pope's going to go with him. I think, ultimately, that's, Joey Halsey's not going with him. Ellery's not going with him. Defensively, BJ, has bounced around over the years, but he seems pretty content here. His family really likes Knoxville. He's, got, a couple kids at Webb that I think are really enjoying things. Coach Garner, I do not believe is going anywhere. I believe he's very happy in Knoxville, very happy with his girls on the row team and everything in Tennessee. Who was the player he asked about? Sorry.
Well, real quick for the player, he also asked about recruiting staff. That's sometimes that's fluid sometimes, correct?
Yeah, I don't see, Brandon Lawson's not going anywhere. I don't think Billy Howe's going anywhere. Trey Johnson is a guy that, is going to be an up and comer, but I think it's, in a solid spot here. So no, I don't seeing that. Who was the player he asked about?
Jordan Phillips.
Continuing to grow. I think, really needed the year to kind of, work on little things, and then they want to try to get his body the way they want it.
Played a little bit in the Vanderbilt game. Jordan did got a few snaps in that game, and obviously could redshirt this year. I think Jordan's biggest thing, Eric, is he's got to quit worried about being technically perfect every time and kind of play. He reminds me a little bit of what Matthew Butler was like when he first got here. Matthew would really get down if he made the slight technical error and was a little thought the game too much instead of kind of played the game. And I think Jordan's got to get to that point where he's just playing the game.
Yeah, and a lot of times that just takes time. You do something repetitive every single day in practice for 2 years, you're going to do it in your sleep and not know you're doing it. So just go out there and play sometimes. Let's go to Hendersonville 15. Are you confident that Josephs and Pierce can develop into serviceable pass rushers next season? Do they look into the portal? Is BY and Roman Harrison gone? BY's gone. Roman Harrison, did he go through senior day activities?
He did not. I think he'll be back unless he decides to leave, but I think he'll be back.
But still could look to the portal to try to find another pass rusher, correct?
Yeah, they would love to add an edge guy or a 3 technique. They're not trying to add any nose tackles or anything like that.
And I was going to say, Joshua Josephs is already a serviceable pass rusher.
Yeah, I would agree. And then you guys want to add anything on James Pierce? Brent, I think Pierce, when given the opportunity late in games, he came in and flashed. I think for him, though, it really is about channeling in on the technique, learning how to do it the correct way, because he's got some just raw talent.
Yeah, I mean, both he and Joseph's got to get stronger. They got to get better. What they've learned is they can't just run around somebody at this league. If they do, they get pushed way up past the quarterback at times. Both of them have great length. Both of them have all the tools that you were looking for. They're bringing in some guys, in this class who are edge guys. I'm not sure if any of them are going to be physically ready to go out of the gate. They're probably going to need some weight thrown on them, which is why if there was a really good pass rusher out there, I think they would explore that option. I don't think they're necessarily just going to take a body at this point from a pass rush standpoint. But if there was a guy out there that they felt like could be a significant impact player for them, I think they would definitely take one.
Rob Lewis, this one goes to you. Racer Vol wants to know if you're filling it out, who is your starting 5 for this basketball team?
My view, the starting 5 doesn't matter as much as who are the 7 or 8 guys that are going to play. But since Rick is committed to bringing Zakai off the bench, obviously, and I'm going to assume Josiah's healthy. I'll go Josiah, and I would like to go small. So I'll do Jonas at the 5, Josiah at the 4, Tyreek, Santi, Julian Phillips. But
I think Max is disagreeing with you there. What's the floor for this team in your opinion?
The floor?
Yeah,
losing the first weekend of the tournament.
Okay, and let's see here. There's one other one.
You said floor, not ceiling, right?
Yes.
I think that's a bare minimum for this Tennessee team.
Yeah, bare minimum.
Be a tournament team, but get ousted in the first round.
And then how would you compare this fall's team to other contenders in the SEC?
I'm not gonna lie. I've not watched every other SEC team play. I've seen Kentucky play some. I saw Arkansas play. I watched a couple of their games from Maui. Haven't seen much of Auburn right now. From watching Kentucky and Arkansas, Tennessee can definitely compete with those two who are the other favorites. But it's I'm still in mostly football mode. Starting Thanksgiving, I watched a lot of basketball. As I said, watched a lot of those tournaments. But I'm not going to pretend to have a bead on every other SEC team right now.
How would you compare this team to the 2012 Kentucky team?
Maybe a notch below.
Well, can you give us a percentage of a shot below?
That's AP specialty. AP, what's the percentage that they get out of the first round of the tournament?
I would say 64% that they get out of the first round. Out of the round 2, I'll go 48%, and then after that, it's they can just get to the Elite 8. I think it's 97.6% they're going to go to the Final Four.
G. Waltney, with 2 into the portal at this time of the recording, how many do you feel may enter the transfer portal? What is the view of the staff along with people to return once what's the view of the staff allowing people to return once enter the portal? Remember, Tyler Barron did that last year. He entered, then came back out.
Yeah, I think it depends on, kind of the position, where they're at the position. And then too, like, this year they may need those numbers, to go and add people. More so last year, it was just kind of like, oh, okay, we'll take you back, not a big deal. This year it's going to be like, wait a minute, we really need that spot now to go get this offensive tackle or this, safety or whatever, tight end. It depends.
Yeah, I think it also depends on who you can replace somebody with, right?
Yep.
If a guy tells you he's going into portal and that there's a guy at his position that has interest in you and you like him, maybe that's a little easier trade to make. So I think every situation is different there. I don't think there's a blanket answer to what the stance is on a situation like that.
Because of all the talk from last night, earlier today, and all the clauses out there, a couple of people are asking, there's no chance Tennessee goes to the Rose Bowl, right, guys?
Right.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, no chance. They are locked in and affiliated and are beholding to their affiliations to the Big Ten and the Pac-12. They're also holding up college football expansion, dictating when semifinal games are played, when they're not involved in the college football playoff. They're dictating in their cluster clause who goes to what other bowl games in the New Year's Six, all because they got a pretty sunny West Coast, and they have a parade full of flowers and balloons.
What's your favorite flower, Hubs?
It's not my favorite bowl game, and I'm telling you that if they keep holding some of this stuff up, at some point somebody's going to have to take a stand and tell them to kick some rocks. In my opinion.
By the way, we finally reached the tipping point of seeing pissed off Hubs. This is phenomenal.
I mean, listen,
phenomenal.
I mean, it's not. I'm not like, oh, Tennessee's not going to the Orange Bowl. Da 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 da.
How tall is the table you're standing on right now?
I'm more from the standpoint of what gives them the right. Like, why do they think they have the right to have all the power over everybody else in the New Year's Six and the college football playoff? Why did they get to have the right? I mean, they're not that prestigious.
It must be that $32 million TV deal they got, right?
Well, I'm more concerned with. I mean, I can see them wanting the right and thinking, being conceited enough to think they deserve the right. However, I'm more confused about why did the college football playoff committee or the powers that be give them the right?
Yeah, you're exactly right.
I mean, I can see them wanting it. That's understandable. But why did everybody else think that was okay?
Because they clamor for the Rose Bowl. They clamor to have it. And you go back to 2 times that in recent years that they had non-Big Ten Pac-12 teams. It was Georgia playing Oklahoma in the semifinal, and then Alabama winning the national title over Texas.
Yeah, I mean, you telling me you couldn't throw those games in SoFi Stadium and sell them out? That's absurd to me.
Oh, I'm with you.
No, I know. I mean, I know you're not disagreeing.
Well, and I don't know who all is on that committee that have ties to the Big Ten and the Pac-12, and to the Rose Bowl themselves. To that, I'm just saying. At some point, you got to look at that and go, you know what? They're holding up progress. And if I'm the Orange Bowl, no offense to Ohio State, I'm hot. Okay? I mean, I'm hot because not because necessarily you're stuck with Ohio State, but I'm hot because I didn't get to pick the team I wanted to pick because the other bowl dictated who I got to pick.
Yep.
And that would bother me significantly if I was a New Year's Six bowl. Significantly.
Fort Loudon Vol wants to know how quickly after the bowl announcement will Austin make his golf course reservations?
Well, Austin's already got a tentative golf course reservation, which is why Austin's also been fairly loud about the ludicrous cluster clause.
Well, but it's also not. There's a lot going on there too. I mean, you got to find out private jet availability.
Yeah,
caterers.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Everybody needs to understand. Austin had a golf course itinerary to the Fiesta Bowl, the Rose Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Citrus Bowl, the Outback Bowl. Right, Austin?
I'm not having one for the Sugar Bowl. I don't care about playing in New Orleans.
Hubbard, you left out the Polynesian Bowl.
No, that my wife's has already sanctioned. Kapalua, baby.
All right, a couple more here. Let's go to Rebel Coach 25. How can Hendon Hooker be a finalist for the Maxwell Award but not the Davey O'Brien Award?
Because there's multiple good quarterbacks, and for whatever reason, they just didn't. I guess they didn't feel like he could win it, so they wanted to put 3 viable options. I don't know. Maybe those 3 were just the 3 highest vote getters.
Yeah, they got 2 separate committees, 2 separate awards. Just the way it is.
Okay, here we go. Last one. Which do you think would be more painful for the fan base? Losing to South Carolina the way Tennessee did, or going 11-1 and being left out of the college football playoff with TCU and USC in over Tennessee?
Well, you're not mad at Tennessee if you're 11-1. You're mad at Tennessee if you're a fan because they lost that South Carolina game. They blew the chance to have that opportunity. I think it would be unbelievable if Tennessee was sitting there at 11-1 and wasn't in the college football playoff with the fans. Like, I think they would just be, it would be, catatonic, because I think they would feel like their resume is worthy of going, and they got pushed out just because TCU's undefeated and USC's the Pac-12 champ.
I lied. Let's do one more. This is for Rob, basketball related. Do you think first of all, what's the latest on Josiah? With him being out, is it likely help Phillips realize his potential on this team quicker than any of the other new great players or 5-star freshmen that they've had under Barnes? Meaning, because of the injury, does that mean Phillips has realized what he can do and he has adapted quicker than any of the other 5-star that Rick Barnes has had?
Maybe he's adapted quicker, but I think the biggest reason is he's just better. I mean, he's better than any of the other 5-stars that Rick has had. And you can go back and find snippets of that in the war room from back in July and August. I mean, he's almost as good of an athlete as Keon, and he's way more polished offensively than Keon. He's also 4 inches taller.
Actually, Rob, you can't go back and find what was said in July.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right, AP. You're right. And as far as Josiah, I mean, it's all on him. It's pain management. It's just what feels good. There's no structural damage. He's not re-injured himself. It just, for lack of a better phrase, the knee just doesn't feel right to him, and he doesn't have 100% confidence right now.
Is this going to be something all year long?
Well, I think that's a fair question to ask. It's been something for a month now. I'm not saying it is going to be all year long, but he didn't play against Gonzaga on October 28th in that exhibition game. He didn't play last week, a month later. So,
gotcha.
Rob, why do you think Jordan's got the feel for the game that has? That's the unusual part for me, is just his understanding and feel for the game. You don't see that from translation. You don't see that very often from the AAU circuit to the college circuit the way you do. Why do you think he's got that?
I can't explain it necessarily. He just has a really high basketball IQ. He cares. He works really hard. He played at advanced prep school, but a lot of kids do that, and that doesn't mean they have a great feel for the game. He works really hard. He takes coaching really well. He's not an entitled 5-star kid. He probably is one and done, but he doesn't bring that mindset to practice every day. He's not, I'm better than you or whatever. He has a great work ethic, and it matters to him. And I don't know if that answers the question or not, but he is really conscientious and doesn't get upset about getting coached hard, which is a big deal in this program. If you're going to make it here, you've got to be able to take coaching. Gets inside the film room, works, gets in the weight room on days off. Just all the things that you love to see in a player. When you combine it with his talent, you've got quite a package.
Appreciate you guys for getting us in all these questions for the Mailbag edition. It's every Thursday right here at Volquest. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that like button. Help us get this video out to more Tennessee fans. And, of course, subscribe to the channel. Support the Volquest on YouTube as well. We got $10 until kickoff 2023. $10 to be a Volquest.com subscriber until kickoff 2023. So go ahead and take advantage of this deal. Text your buddies. Tell your friends. If they're not, they need to come on and join us. We got a whole lot of great stuff coming up this week. And, of course, covering whichever bowl Tennessee is in. That announcement will be made on Sunday.
All the stocking stuffer there, Kane. Put it in the stocking for all your kids.
Little
Volquest.
stocking stuffer, little Volquest.com subscription. I like
A
it.
Reese tree for the holidays and Volquest for a year.
For Rob Lewis, Brent Hubbs, and that man, Austin Price, I'm Eric Kane. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with us here today on the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody.